Because of the character of this war, because there is no front line, because villages change hands so quickly, many flying the South Vietnamese flag during the day and feeding the Viet Cong at night, that the final decision on who controls what will probably be decided on what is generally called here the leopard spot policy. Under the leopard spot policy, it's decided that at the hour when the fighting has stopped, what is held by the communists will be administered by them, and the areas flying the South Vietnamese flag will be controlled from Saigon. The map at present looks like this. The communists dominate the country north of the Central Highlands, leaving only a narrow coastal strip with Quang Tri, Hue and Da Nang defended by the South Vietnamese army. They also defend the Central Highlands around Kon Tum and Pleiku. But the entire western strip, bordering on Laos and Cambodia, are held by the communists, north from the demilitarized zone right down south to and including much of the Mekong Delta. There are also fingers of land south and east of Saigon where the Viet Cong operate freely. What might look impressive on the map is deceiving. So is the total count of villages held by the communists, because they usually take over only the empty shell. Villagers suddenly become refugees and move out as the communists move in, not necessarily out of political conviction, but for their own safety. After the bombing and shelling, there is usually very little left to inherit. More often than not, only the name of the village is left. This is what much of post-war South Vietnam will look like. Although some families have begun to move back to the ruins to try and rebuild in between the craters, most of the refugees will never return. These scenes, repeated all over the country, means that the population of South Vietnam is more and more concentrated in the district towns and the cities like Hue, Da Nang and Saigon. In the villages, there is the fear that the Viet Cong will kill those who have actively helped the government forces. It's happened frequently before, especially to the local militia. These volunteer home guards would be high on any Viet Cong list for assassination. There is the same fear in Saigon. Early in the war, the Viet Cong very successfully terrorized the city, and many people are convinced that given an amnesty under the ceasefire, the terrorists would work their way in again. So the fear is not that the communists will win on the battlefields of South Vietnam. People here are afraid that under the present ceasefire terms, the communists, as they see it, will be allowed back onto the streets. And nobody here can be certain, and that must include President Thieu, of any future political independence once the communists are allowed back in. Michael Nicholson, News at 10, Saigon, South Vietnam.